Hey everybody, it's Cathy. Welcome to episode 25 of Mondays on the Mat. I'm coming to you live from my office/yoga room. And today's question comes from Becky, who asked, how are we as students supposed to understand or learn the Sanskrit? And this is such a fun question because Sanskrit is like a whole nother language, right? So, as we get into today's topic, remember if you have questions or comments you'd like to add, please throw them down here in the comment box so that I can address you and clarify anything that isn't making sense during today's episode. Or maybe you have something that I can answer in a whole upcoming episode of Mondays on the Mat. So let's get into the topic of Sanskrit. So first of all, I am not a Sanskrit scholar or expert. Okay, so there are places and there are opportunities where you can really go and study Sanskrit as a language, just like you would study Italian or French or something like that. I have not done that, so I'm definitely not an expert. But as a part of my 200-hour teacher training program, which I did 11 years ago now, holy cow, a big piece of it that, or not a big piece of it, but a part of it that was really valuable was that we were taught how to translate some of the Sanskrit in relationship to a yoga class and that how to break down the names of the poses to help them make sense. So I'm going to give you a little bit of some key pieces that'll help you when you're in a yoga class start to hear and understand what a teacher who is using Sanskrit might be saying. So the first word is asana. And I often hear that mispronounced as asana, but asana is a delicious warm place where you go to get all sweaty and detoxed and all that good stuff. So the word is asana. In your mind or out loud, say that with me really quick. Asana. One more time, asana. So asana means pose. And in the context of a yoga class, you'll hear it often coming at the end of the name of a pose. So generally the poses start off with the name and then they end with asana, which means pose. So I'm going to say now just a couple names of poses progressively getting longer, and I'd like you to just listen and hear how each of them have asana at the end. Shavasana, Trikonasana, Chaturanga Dandasana, Triangmukhiyata Pada Paschimottanasana. So what you hear asana at the end, that means pose. And if you're brand new to yoga or you've just been doing yoga for a while but you've never really paid attention, what I would recommend you do is the next time you're in yoga class for like a while, for like some weeks or months, just start to pay a little bit more attention and hear how each pose, most of the poses, I won't say each because that's not 100% true, but many of the poses are going to end with that word asana that means pose. So for example, Shavasana means corpse pose. Trikonasana, triangle pose. And so you'll know that what your teacher is doing throughout the duration of class is telling you to do these different poses. So next, I'm going to break down a few key pieces of names of poses that you might hear regularly enough to help you start to make sense. So the word urdhva is going to mean up, and urdhva mukha means upward facing. So for example, if you hear urdhva hastasana, that's going to mean hands up or up hands, or adho mukha svanasana, upward facing dog. So now, did I say adho or urdhva? Oh my god, I just totally spazzed. Let me make sure I said it correct. Urdhva mukha svanasana, upward facing dog, because I wanted to go next into adho, which is down, and adho mukha is downward facing. So if you hear adho mukha svanasana, it's going to mean downward facing dog. And again, if you hear asana, that means pose. And a lot of times what teachers will do, including myself, when we translate to English, is we don't say the word pose again. So I wouldn't say adho mukha svanasana, downward facing dog pose. It starts to get a little bit wordy and mouthy, but just know that that's what it means. So we've got urdhva, up, adho, down. And so anytime you hear that at the beginning of a pose, you can at least start to think something's going up. And generally, depending on where you're at in a posture, it'll make sense. If you've got hands and feet on the floor and you hear Urdhva Mukha Svanasana, it's most likely going to mean go into upward facing dog, because if you got your hands on the floor supporting your weight and you hear Urdhva, you're probably not going to be lifting your hands up into the air. So some of it'll just start to make sense in context as you learn these pieces. Okay, so we've got Asana pose, Urdhva up, Adho down. Next, let's talk about hasta. This means hand. And so when you hear something that has hasta in it, you know the pose is going to have something to do with your hand. So what's really cool, I started with Urdhva Hastasana, Urdhva up, hasta, hand, asana, pose. So you can hear how these get put together to make the names of the poses. So we've got hasta for hand, but the thing is that arm is bhuja. So for example, if you hear bhujasana, it's going to be referring to the arm doing something versus the hand, which is hasta. It's a little bit different for the feet and legs because pada can mean foot or leg. So if you hear something like hasta padangustasana, hasta hand, pada foot, but then you add in the gusta, it really means big toe. So but pada is going to cue you in to it being with the foot. Okay, so asana pose, Urdhva up, Adho down, hasta hand, pada foot. Okay, so now Eka. It is breezy like crazy, and my bedroom door just slammed, which is no big deal except for the fact that the cats are hanging out in there. So that means I gotta go run and open the door and rescue the cats who are now freaking out that the door slammed. Oh my God, don't go anywhere. Whoa! Okay. The cats have been rescued. It's okay. We're on Eka. Eka means one. And here's why I decided to go in this order, because you will often hear something like Eka pada, Adho Mukha Svanasana. So Eka 1, pada, foot or leg, Adho Mukha, downward facing, dog pose. So start to listen to all these little pieces and it'll clue you in. Eka pada, Adho Mukha Svanasana, one-legged downward-facing dog pose. So a lot of the poses are just these words put together that are describing the actions. And even if you don't understand all of the pieces, like I said, in the context of class, it'll probably start to make sense where you're going. And a really great instructor is going to give you step-by-step instructions to get you there anyway, so you can start to make these connections between the words and the syllables you're hearing and the poses. And you'll start to know, oh, when I hear Eka pada Adho Mukha Svanasana, I know what I'm supposed to do. Lift one leg in my downward facing dog pose. So the next little chunk I'm going to give you, and I'm not going to give you too many more, don't freak out. The next little chunk I'm going to give you is kona, K-O-N-A, and that means angle. And anytime you hear kona, it's usually in the middle somewhere, that means your legs are going to be in some kind of an angle. So here is a handful of poses where you might hear that. And just listen right now to hear that kona in the middle. Trikonasana, Baddha Konasana, Parshva Konasana, Upavishta Konasana. So if you're paying attention and you've managed to tune into that chunk in the middle, again, that kona is going to give you a good idea that your legs will be in some sort of angle. So let's listen to Trikonasana. What I love about this one, and it's actually the first pose way back a million years ago when I was a student before I was a teacher and studied all of this stuff, Trikonasana was the first Sanskrit word that I understood and could do without needing it translated. Because in English, tri, T-R-I, is 3. And in Sanskrit, tri, is 3. And then we know that kona means angle. So if we have something that's got 3 angles, what do you know? What shape do you know that has 3 angles but a triangle? And so if you think about it, tri, kona, angle. 3 angles, triangle. So Trikonasana is triangle pose. So I'm hoping that by explaining and breaking down some of these pieces, that'll help you the next time you're in class understand this. Let's listen to another one. Parshva Konasana. Parshva means side, and Kona means angle. So we've got side angle pose. Baddha means bound. So Baddha Konasana means bound angle pose. And when we hear Baddha with any pose, that means something is coming together, either the feet or the hands. So Baddha Konasana is feet together, knees apart, what is sometimes called cobbler's pose. And Baddha Parshva Konasana. So we just learned Parshva Konasana, side angle pose. So Baddha Parshva Konasana, bound side angle pose, where the hands come together behind your back. Okay, almost done with some basics that you can put together and hear and listen a little more carefully in class. Ut, U-T, is not a whole word. It's not a whole world for sure. It is definitely not a whole word. U-T, ut, means extreme or intense. Like Utkatasana means extremely intense pose. You know it as chair pose. It translates as fierce pose. But that's ut means intense. But when you hear utthita, it means raised up, extended, or stretched. So a lot of poses actually start with utthita. For example, utthita parshva konasana, because it means extended or stretched side angle pose, right? Here's the stretch of the side body. You have the angle in the front knee. Extended side angle pose, or Utthita Trikonasana also means extended triangle pose. A lot of times teachers are going to drop off the Utthita, again because it just starts to get mouthy and redundant, but it is a part of the name of the poses. Or you might hear Utthita Hasta Padang Gustasana. Pada with the ang part after it means big toe. So if you've got utthita, that's going to mean extended, hasta hand, padang, big toe, wah, pose. So start listening for a few of these key syllables, I guess is probably a good way to say it. Some of them are full words in Sanskrit and some of them are parts of words in Sanskrit. And let your ear just get comfortable with it. You don't need to be able to translate all of these poses in order to practice or even to understand what's going on. But it is fun to start to play with them like a puzzle. They're almost like, oh, if we take this piece and we put them together, we get something different. For example, ut, intense, uttanasana, which is standing forward fold, that really just means intense, stretching forward, intense. And really, I think uttanasana, standing forward fold, is pretty intense, if you ask me. So start to listen for those pieces, and you don't even need to understand all the pieces of the word or words or poses to start to get a sense of what will be happening. And then if you take that, like I said, in the context of where your body is in space, it's going to start to come together and flow, and you'll start translating in your mind, or your body will start doing the postures even though the English hasn't come in yet. So just a quick reminder of the little pieces of poses and pose names that you can start listening for. Asana, Urdhva, Adho, Hasta, Bhuja, Pada, here, or all of this, Padang, big toe, Kona, angle, Eka, one, Baddha, bound, put together, and Utthita, extreme, not extreme, Ut is extreme, Utthita is extended or stretched out. So, Sanskrit basics, just a little tiny bit to help your ears and your mind start to make more sense of what's going on when it sounded like your teacher said something like chili pepper pasta. So, Becky, that's my answer to your question. I hope that clarifies a little bit. If you have any questions you'd like answered about yoga, please shoot them to me here in the comments. Visit me over on CathyWeissYoga.com and send me your question that way, or ask me live in class. This week we've got a really fun class coming up. It's called All the Dogs, because there are so many variations of downward facing dog, and we're going to play and mix and shake things up a little bit with all those dogs this week. Tuesday 6:30 to 8, Wednesday 5:30 to 7, Friday 9:30 to 11, and Saturday 9 to 10:30 a.m. And also I have one private spot open for an ongoing private for about 6 to 8 weeks. So if you're interested in working at your own pace or on something that's more meaningful to you, please hit me up and let's get you set up with some private lessons. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next week live on Mondays on the Mat. Have a beautiful day. Namaste.